Howdy, and welcome to the Lost Rider podcast. It's an honor and privilege to address you in the capacity of an interviewer, reporter, and media member. Too many modern media outlets have forgone the integrity and responsibility required of credible information sources. What you will receive here are straightforward discussions with legislators, agency leaders, biologists, engineers, doctors, and countless other experts that have the answers to questions often circulated as kitchen table issues. The title Lost Rider may be thought of literally as well as in the metaphorical sense. While there has been the instance that I was momentarily a little turned around at night in a wilderness area, the idea of being a lost rider in life, well, that fits most folks at some time. These renderings are coming to you in the form of the 25-year-old radio program, The News from the Camp House. It still airs every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus, Texas. The original intent was to relate outdoor topics to the general public. Immediately, it was found that all issues are relatable to the outdoors and that people are people. They all play a role and they all have a vested interest. It's this program's desire to answer common questions about how the world works, how it will operate in the future, and what's the holdup. So please listen, enjoy, and never hesitate to contact us with more questions and feedback. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House, listening post to the Texas Sportsmen Association. This is Herman, Brune, and this weekend's edition is also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club folks who don't have a country club. All right, special edition this week. We're doing this as our 25th anniversary broadcast. This is 25 years that we've been on the air with KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus. We started in August of 2000, and we started off with water issues, and we're still doing them. And so this morning, we have special guest, Mr. John Byrum. He is the executive director of the Nueces River Authority, and they've got a plan in the works to put a desal plant down at Port Aransas. Okay, we've had him on once before. We're going to get an update. And how's that project? Desal, for one thing, this is something we've watched for 25 years. 25 years ago, it was too expensive. And you couldn't do it because the energy costs were too high. The next thing that happens is people want to know what happens to the discharge. And it becomes to that extent, that question is in our minds today has been weaponized. There's technology that can manage the discharge, but most folks don't know about it. So let's talk about it. Let's figure out how are the plans going, because when we talk about Texas needs water, and there's more people every day in Texas, and 25 years ago we were out of water, and desal sounded like a good answer then. Is it still a good answer?
It is absolutely a good answer. You know, we've learned a lot about desal in the past 20, 25 years, and our plan is moving forward. We've got our lease from the Port of Corpus Christi for property on Harbor Island, right at the ferry docking, going from Aransas Pass over into Port Aransas. If you look to the left, that's Harbor Island. That's where the plant will be. As far as discharge, you know, we've learned a lot about that. Our discharge will go 3.2 miles out into the Gulf of America. Mm-hmm. And it's into the deeper water. It will be raised up off the floor a little bit, and it'll be dispersed in different, along about 150 to 300 foot pathway there. and it is engineered to reach ambient chloride levels within 150 feet or so. So as far as an impact on the environment out there, it should have none. These things are operated worldwide now without any impact, any negative impact towards the environment of the area they discharge into.
All right. One of the things, my listeners have heard this story how many times that, it's inaccurate to say Texas has never done this before, because it was done during the Spring Hill Strategic Oil Reserve. The supersaturated discharge went back into the Gulf of Mexico. And at that time, I was told they put 1 million to 1.2 million barrels a day out that pipeline without any environmental impact. It was a longer pipeline, and they dispersed it over a further longer section of that pipe. I think it's like a 7-mile pipeline. In the last 4 miles, it was being dispersed. So, but y'all are not talking about not that type of volume.
No, we're looking at discharging. Our plant's 100 million, and so there'll be that much plus, of saturated water, brine saturated water going back into the Gulf. But one of the things that I will mention, we are talking, and we have had inquiries from several companies that are interested in extracting the minerals from that brine.
Right.
And if that comes to fruition, then what would happen is we would send all of the brine over to the extraction company. They would extract those minerals and send the water remaining from that back to us for another pass, which would lower cost in the long run, and actually it would be advantageous not only from a cost standpoint, but also very advantageous because you're not dumping that heavy brine back into the Gulf. The Gulf can take it, but if you can find other ways forward, there are things, in that seawater that are very valuable, and they're wanting to extract that and then find off-takers for it. So hopefully we can find someone we can make a deal with, and it'll be a win-win for everybody.
Okay. And again, we will bring up the point that this is something people talked about that went on with the Byan Mound Strategic Oil Reserve. That when that one was drilled out, I think, if I'm correct, they were trying to save the chlorides and the chlorines from that discharge, and that it didn't all go back in the Gulf. And that one was in 1984. Well, the Spring Hill was in 88. That was in 84. So that's how long people have been doing this. This isn't necessarily, off the cuff, brand new, we're going to try this type of thing. This has been something that's gone on since 1984.
Yes, it's been going on seawater, and of course Texas also has one up on Lake Granbury. It's a surface water plant, but they remove salt from the water up on the Lake Granbury, and that's been going on for about that same amount of time. In the 80s, maybe late 80s, they had that plant, and it's been very successful there as a regional water supply for that area.
Okay, all right. So and what we're doing here is, when you have an idea, when you try these things, it's not just trying these things, but when you go into this type of business and the public should be aware of it, you have to cover all the bases. You want people to have every aspect, you want everybody to know every little bit about it. And one of the things, just for instance, what about the intake? How do you do that?
That's a very interesting question. And our intake has like 8 different places where the water will be diverted from the Gulf into a 120-inch pipeline going in towards our plant. That's about a 3.1 mile conveyance line. That it will be raised up off the floor of the ocean about 6 feet, and the velocity through those diversion structures, the screens out there, will never exceed a half a foot per second, which that slows it down, gives the any ecology or any fish life there around that, marine life around that, and an opportunity to escape.
Okay.
So that is a requirement from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. We're complying with that, and we feel like that leads to a successful project.
Okay, and then this is industrial water. Is that not correct?
Well, it's municipal and industrial.
Okay.
Yes, we have sold 38 million gallons of that, which is 38% of the capacity. We are still talking to people for about another 10 MGD, a million gallons per day. That is water that is from all the way from, we haven't sold any in the coastal Bend area yet. We're working with the city of Corpus Christi in trying to do that, but that is conveying water from the plant there in Aransas Pass all the way up into eastern Bexar County,
Right.
which is outside San Antonio.
All right. Okay. All right. I'll tell you what. Well, now, wait a minute. Just a second. I got one more question. All right. If this is to do with Corpus, and Corpus also sells water down to South Texas.
Corpus has about, they have wholesale water customers in about 7 different counties,
Right.
in and around the coastal bend. And one of the things that they are wanting to do is build their own seawater desal facility.
Right.
They've had that proposed. There's been some opposition to it. There's been some debate back and forth. I'm not sure where that is going to eventually wound up being built or not, but if not, then I'm sure that we can probably work a deal where they could buy and purchase some fresh water from us through our desalinated plant.
All right, and Kingsville's looking at, or South Texas Water Authority's looking at building a plant for brackish water.
They've got some brackish aquifers down in the area. They're wanting to bring that water up and treat it, and supply water kind of in an intermediary basis for the area through a brackish water supply.
Okay. All right, so you kind of see how all this stuff comes to a head, how it all winds up in one place. Okay, I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break and thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back. Thank goodness for all the great sponsors we have here at News from the Camp House. H-E-B Food Stores. That's Stephen Tice at H-E-B. He helps me. He helps the community. He's a great man. I'm so thankful H-E-B loosened him up, lets him go around and sponsor a few things. H-E-B's got all your food needs. It's the greatest food store we got here in Columbus. Thank goodness for H-E-B. First State Bank. You go over to the First State Bank, they'll take care of all your loans, all your deposits, your savings, anything you need. Bunch of great hometown people over there. You got Celia Tobias, John Pollock. Everybody over there is looking out for you. Miss Barbara Barta. It's a great bunch of folks at the First State Bank is also sponsoring News from the Camp House. First State Bank takes care of all my business. Baumgart Agency, Susan Baumgart at the Baumgart Agencies, her and Germania. She told me to plug Germania. Germania is an insurance that she likes to everybody to know about. The Baumgart Agencies. Miss Susan and I are classmates, been classmates. She got me out of high school, sat right beside her, put us in alphabetical order where I could copy. And Susan Baumgart over at the Baumgart Agency taking care of all your insurance needs. Lyco Realty, one of the original sponsors of News from the Camp House. Lyco Realty, the oldest real estate company in the county, and for the last 3 years voted the favorite realtor in the county. Lyco Realty, that's Miss Kimberly Johnson, that's Crockett's granddaughter. More kinfolks and classmates and great people from Colorado County. People from Colorado County helping people from Colorado County. That's great. Oh, thank goodness for all these wonderful people come to me want to be sponsors for News from the Camp House. Good morning and welcome to the second half of this week's News from the Camp House. We're sitting here with Mr. John Byrum. He's Executive Director of Nueces River Authority. They are going to build a desal plant on Harbor Island. That's at Port Aransas. They're figuring out how to do it, make sure everybody's happy, that there's no environmental impact, that they're making fresh water for both municipalities and for industry. And we closed out the first half talking about, kind of how all this water winds up around Corpus, around San Antonio, maybe South Texas. And I'm adamant about, we need all the information. People need to have all the information. I'm going to give you an example. Now, I just saw a thing come up, a petition. And I'm not sure who was pushing it, but they were talking about, like Jacob's Well and a lot of the Trinity Aquifer being low. Now, I don't know what happened after the flooding. I don't know what the Trinity Aquifer looks like after the flooding. But they were talking about, a bunch of these natural springs and stuff not running. And given the GCDs, the groundwater conservation districts, the power to charge these commercial wells. And this was supposedly a bill that went through the Texas legislature, but ultimately got vetoed by Abbott. And they want, the gist of what I read was they wanted everybody to sign this petition so that Abbott would give these GCDs the ability to charge commercial wells. And there was a bunch of red flags went up in my mind when I read this. And they're not, you don't run off and sign a petition like that without knowing everything. There's a reason that he vetoed that. And can you speak to that, Mr. Byrum?
I'm not really familiar with what went on in that particular bill, but I do know that there is a lot of concern about groundwater. We've got a lot of groundwater in Texas, a whole lot of groundwater in Texas, some of it brackish, some of it really good water. But the problem we got there, Herman, is that when you look at the amount of water that we're using now compared to 10, 15 years ago, we still have 1,300 people per day coming across the border, coming into Texas. This is the northern border now.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
So when you look at that, they're not bringing water rights with them. They're not bringing anything but a glass of water, a cup of water, which, by the way, they're paying a lot more than they will be for desal water for that plastic bottle worth of water. Yeah. But in any case, we are so close to our capacities and the ability of these groundwater aquifers to meet the need, that we have to start looking other places. Sure. Right now, today, in the lower basin of the Nueces River, our lakes are in the 14 to 15% range capacity. So we've got enough water to get us through to 2026, December 2026, and then people are going to be looking for water. We find this going on in lots of West Texas now. West Texas is an area that really keeps the state afloat because of our oil and gas exploration deal. We need to find a way to be able to continue having those exploratory services and having that kind of revenue coming into the state. So, we are successful. We have our surplus in our budget biannually, and that is the reason. So we need to find more water sources. We need to develop those sources, and the only sustainable one is that is to the south of us.
Desal.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we've been looking at that for 25 years, and we've been looking at that for 25 years. And now, to me, it's disheartening when you look at something that long, you figure out how to get the costs down. Personally, know that there's technology out there that can answer all the questions, and the public's unaware. And now that's what we're here for. I mean, is to let them know it's going to be okay. And it's the public, it's the NGOs, the conservation NGOs, it's the legislators, it's everybody. Got to let everybody know that this can be okay.
It is okay. In our model, in the model that we created at the Nueces River Authority, we came up with a public-private partnership. Now, that does two things for us. That brings in not only money from the outside the state of Texas to finance the plant portion of it, but it also brings in expertise. Around the world, desal has been used. A lot of countries. I went to Egypt, Cairo, Egypt, 20 years ago, and drank desal water in Egypt. This is 20 years ago, and it's been used around the world. We want to take advantage of the experience these people have in running these membrane plants and these reverse osmosis plants, and use that to our advantage. They can get longer life out of those membranes. The heart and the soul of a desal plant is the membrane. The longer you get out of that, the cheaper the water is. And we want to be able to use that expertise in our particular circumstance to get water supplied at the cheapest available price.
All right. What surprised me is how much industry water is going to be needed in the future. I didn't realize that, if you have people are trying to get hydrogen energy, and that takes an extreme amount of water. They're trying to figure out, all the software plants, all this stuff takes an extreme amount of industrial water that, bless their heart, they're bringing all this commerce to Texas, but we have to have the water to supply that.
We have to have water. The AI systems in our computers are using a lot of data, and a lot of these data centers now are built strictly for that, and they use a tremendous amount of water in their cooling to cool those computers off. That's water that can be used 2 or 3 turns, or maybe even 4 turns in some cases, but after that they have to release that water, and we are finding problems in our basin trying to find a water supply to adequately, cool these right. facilities. That, and then other industry. People say, "Well, I don't want to pay water. I don't want to pay high dollar water for industry." Well, the problem with that is if we don't have industry, we don't have jobs, and mom and dad can't make a living and feed the family. And that's super important to us that we continue on this track. Texas is very, very fortunate in that we don't have budget deficits. We don't have issues like we've got growth issues here in Texas. And one of the growth issues will be providing adequate water. So I think that's why looking towards the south and getting water out of the big puddle that we've got below us is the most important thing we will do in the next 10 to 15 years.
Well, certainly. I think, hopefully, it's, like I said, we've been looking at this for 20, 25 years. Actually, longer than that. And providing the technology, it was in the mid-90s when, we addressed the Separation Sciences Department at Texas A&M, and they showed us the technology of how to, water process technologies for water treatment plants, as well as how to treat frack water and put it back into the system. That was 30 years ago, and people today are still horrified if you say something about putting industrial water back, putting it in a creek, because they don't know that the technology is there for these water treatment plants that you treat this water, you take out, like we said earlier, you take out those minerals that can be used again, and you get right back to fresh water. This is technology that we've had, and we've had it for 30 years or more.
Well, it has. It's been out there. And, as far as returning water to the creek, or to the streams in Texas, that does a couple of things. Number one, it cleans those streams. That water that is returned is usually in better quality than what's sitting in that stream. And it keeps that stream running for 2 reasons. Number one, it's important because God gave us the ultimate water treatment deal. And that's put oxygen in it, let that oxygen transfer as it's running down those streams. And it continues to clean that water as it moves south or as it moves down towards the base. And not only that, but it allows stream flow for, people downstream to use that water. It's perfectly safe to use in most cases. And, it's the thing that we need in Texas to keep ourselves prosperous.
All right. I think we've made our point. Desal's here. One of the next things too is getting that cost down even further. I've had nuclear engineers on here who have said that this, desal could be a byproduct of nuclear energy.
I've heard that too, and I've also, there's new technology out there where they run it through a lot smaller type equipment, and they remove the salts that way. Now, I haven't looked at that because when you're building the largest plant in the United States, this would be the largest desal plant in the United States, 100 MGD. You want to make sure you go with proven technology this time around. Maybe by the time we get ready to expand that, some of these new technologies will be viable to look at.
Okay. All right. Mr. Byrum, thanks for being with us this morning.
It's a great time. Good to see you again. Thank you.
All right, folks, I hope you learned a little bit this morning. 25 years on the radio at KULM talking about water. All right, water and everything else. I think my listeners are, they're either hearing about water or they're hearing about North American Wildlife Conservation Model, one or the other. So, all right, guys, y'all go out. This weekend's edition is also brought to us by Shaw's Bend Social Club, the country club folks who don't have a country club. Now, everybody go out, have a great weekend, have a lot of fun, be safe, and y'all just remember, pretty much any day is sure a good day to be out in the woods.